China has just test-fired a nuclear-capable ballistic missile into the South Pacific. For Australia, New Zealand, Fiji and the wider region, this is not just another defence headline. It's a reminder that the strategic environment in the Pacific is changing and that change has consequences well beyond government and defence circles. On Monday, China launched a long-range ballistic missile from a nuclear-powered submarine into the South Pacific. The missile carried a dummy warhead and it apparently landed in a designated area of high seas between Nauru and Tonga. Now, Beijing says this was routine military training, not aimed at any country, and that relevant governments were notified in advance. Australia's taken a very different view. Foreign Minister Penny Wong described the launch as destabilising, and Australian officials have made it clear that the warning they received was limited. New Zealand has also raised serious concerns, including around the South Pacific nuclear-free zone. Japan and Taiwan have voiced concern too. Now, the timing is what makes this especially sensitive. The launch came just hours after Australia and Fiji signed a major new security agreement in Suva. That treaty deepens cooperation between the two countries and sits inside a much bigger contest over influence in the Pacific. Whether China intended the timing as a direct message or not, that is how it was interpreted. China is demonstrating that it can project nuclear-capable military power deep into the Pacific and that its submarine force is becoming more capable. It's also reminding the region that the balance of power is shifting. And that matters for Australia because the Pacific is not a distant theatre. It's our backyard, our immediate strategic environment. It's where our trade routes run, where our energy security connects, and where our diplomatic credibility is tested. For business leaders, the easy response is just to see the missile test and think, oh, well, that belongs in the defence bucket. But that's a bit too narrow. Geopolitical events don't need to trigger a war to affect business. They do change assumptions and they influence government spending, how insurance is priced, shipping behaviour, investment decisions, procurement priorities, and the way that companies think about risk. In the short term, markets may not react dramatically, but that doesn't mean that there is no commercial impact. Investors are treating this as a signal rather than an immediate escalation. If open ocean missile testing in the Pacific becomes more normal, then companies operating across the region will need to factor that into their planning as shipping routes become more sensitive. Airspace and maritime warnings will matter more and more. Insurers are going to ask harder questions, and governments will also spend more on surveillance, deterrence, fuel security, port resilience, and defence manufacturing. Now, that's going to create some great opportunities for some sectors, particularly in the defence industry and for aerospace, maritime technology, cyber drones, satellites, undersea monitoring, and critical infrastructure companies. But it's going to create complexity for everyone else. If you're moving goods through the Indo-Pacific, sourcing from the region, relying on regional ports, or exposed to energy and freight costs, this is relevant to you. The question is whether your business is prepared for a region where security risk is becoming a normal part of commercial planning. This missile test is another sign that the operating environment in the Indo-Pacific region is changing. The companies that understand that early will be better placed than the ones that wait until disruption is already on their doorstep. Because geopolitics is no longer just sitting outside business strategy. It's becoming part of the conditions in which business has to operate. If you want clear, practical analysis on what these global shifts mean for business, subscribe to the channel.